Hey guys, so today we're going to be making these beautiful star stitch bookmarks, as you can see here. Hope you can see that. So there we go, there's a yellow or autumn yellow one, then we have this beautiful green one here, and then we also have this blue one. So there they are, the bookmarks, and we're going to learn how to do this together. Let's get right into it. Okay, so to begin our star stitch bookmark, all we need is a hook that is either 3mm, 3.5mm, or 4mm. And mine here is 3.5mm. Next, I'm going to be using 4-ply cotton yarn, but of course, there's no preference for what type of yarn you use. It can be acrylic, it can be worsted weight, anything really, and you can have that yarn. So what we're going to do, and this is the very important part, or one of the important parts of this. First of all, we got to make a slip knot. So for very beginners who don't know how to make a slip knot, all I do is firstly to wrap the yarn around the fourth finger, around the second finger, and then hold the rest of the yarn with the third finger and the thumb. And here's the yarn tail down here. Now I'm going to turn this yarn right at this position. I've got a little X here, and I'm going to hold that with my thumb. So now I have a loop right here, which I will now insert my hook. I will grab the yarn and pull it through that loop, and then I will pull the yarn very tightly, and this here is what we call a slip knot. So this is a slip knot right here. Okay, now we need to know how many chains we make. Now this is how you can remember it for star stitches. You need at least a multiple of 2. So let's say I chose the number 30. That's great because that's a multiple of 2. 2 times 5 is 30. But once I've reached that 30, we need to make some additional chains, and we'll see that after I have chained 30. So let's do that here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and here's the 30th stitch or loop or chain right here. Okay, so now that we have a multiple of 2 that we've chained, and this will technically be almost the length of our bookmark. If I wanted a larger or longer bookmark in length, then I would just increase this again by a multiple of 2. And once I've finished those multiples of 2, this is the next thing we want to do. We want to chain an additional 4. Okay, so multiple of 2, at the end chain an additional 4, and you'll see why in just a moment. Here's 1, 2, 3, and lucky last, number 4. So you can see now we've chained an additional 4. Now what I want to do is, here you can see here's my first loop, and then here is my second loop. And this is what we call the second loop from the hook. And whenever you chain, you will see in patterns it's written start in the second loop or chain from the hook. And this is exactly the chain or loop that we are talking about right here. So before we enter into that second loop from the hook, what we will do is we're going to wrap the yarn around the hook. Now we'll enter the hook through that second chain from the hook. And then we're going to pull the yarn up like this. And this is always the beginning of the star stitch. So this is why you chain those additional 4, because you have to do a little something different to start the star stitch pattern. Now we're going to wrap the yarn again, and we're going to enter into the very next loop. And then we pull the yarn through and lift it up just a little bit. And finally, we'll wrap the yarn one more time and enter into the very next loop and pull the yarn through right here. And that is the end of those 4 chains. So we started in the second chain from the hook, and then we did an additional 2 loops. So that is our total of 4 additional chains at the end there. Now we have all these loops on our hook, and what we need to do is we have to pull the yarn through all of the loops on the hook. So I'm going to stretch this out a little bit so I can pull the hook through all the loops that are on the hook, as you see I've just done. And then we will chain just one to bring that all together. So that is the beginning of our star stitch pattern for this bookmark, and you will do this anytime you're creating a star stitch. Okay, now the very next part, this is where we insert our hook. So we're doing no more wrapping the yarn like this. We're just inserting the hook in the following. So the first one is going to be in this space right here, and I want to call this the donut hole. Really, it's just that chain space that we created to end our half a star stitch. So that's the donut hole that we're going to enter our hook into. Another spot that we'll enter our hook into is, if you can see these little strands or legs that we can call them over here, and I'll call them insect legs because from here on there's going to be a total of 6 of these legs, and we enter into the 6th leg, which will be right here, and that's where we also enter our hook. Another place that we enter our hook for the star stitch pattern is right at this corner space. As you can see, I'm pulling it a little bit, and then this corner space right here is another space or section that we enter our hook into, and then an additional 2 loops in the chain, or 2 stitch spaces. And that's all it is right there. So now we are ready to begin and repeat the star stitch or half star stitch pattern. The reason why I say half is because to complete a full star stitch, you need to have 2 entire rows. We are only on the first row that we're making right now. All right, let us begin. We're going to enter the hook into the donut hole right here, and we're going to pull the yarn through. Now notice I'm not saying yarn over or yarn under. These are very niche terms that I use, but for you guys, you don't need to really do a particular way. Any way works just fine. And if you want to know the difference between yarn over, yarn under, there's a quick video that I have on this channel. It's Crochet for Beginners. Lesson number 4, I do believe, either 3 or 4, and it talks about the single crochet stitch, but all those techniques, yarn over, yarn under, etc. So go check out that video, I'll link it here as well. All right, next, once we've been in the donut hole, we're now going into that 6th space of our insect leg. And we're going to pull the yarn through that space as well. And I'll just pull the yarn up a little bit too, so that this is not too tight, because we want to fit our yarn at the end through all of these loops. Next, we want to enter our hook into that very corner space that I spoke about before. So there's the corner space, and we'll pull the yarn through just like that. And again, pulling the yarn a little bit up so it's nice and even across here. And finally, we have another 2 loop spaces to enter our hook into. So here's the first loop space that will pull up the yarn just like so. And then in the very next loop space, we will pull the yarn and pull it up as well, just like so. Now you can see we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on the hook. And what we will do at this point is pull the yarn through all 6 loops that are on the hook, just like that. To finish off this half star stitch, we will just chain 1. And look, we now have our half star stitch right here, just like this one. This one was a little bit different, but this is the one that we're going to be repeating all the way down the length of the chain. So let's just do that again. We're entering into the donut space right here, that donut space that we made when we chained 1. We're going to pull up the yarn just like so. Then in our 6th insect leg, we will also enter our hook and pull up the yarn. Then in that corner space, which is where we completed our final pulling up the yarn, or where we finally entered our hook into, that's that corner space right there. So again, your hook goes in and pulls up the yarn, and we just make that yarn a little bit stretchy, pulling it up as we go. And now we have an additional 2 loops to go into and pull the yarn, one at a time though. So here's the first, pulling it up, and here is the second, also pulling it up. Now we have a total of 6 loops on the hook, and this is where we grab the yarn and pull it through all 6 loops on that hook. And then to finish it off, we just chain once. then again we have that beautiful half star stitch pattern that we've created. Let's do it one more time. So a little bit faster here. Donut hole, insert the hook, pull up the yarn, leg space, the 6th leg space of that insect leg, pulling up the yarn, the corner space right here, also pulling up the yarn, and an additional 2 loops right here, 1 pulling up the yarn and 2 pulling up the yarn right there. Now what we want to do is pull the yarn through all 6 loops on the hook, nice and slowly, nice and gently, and then chain 1 to finish that, just like that. Alright, so what we will do is we will continue that same pattern all the way down the length of the chain, and let's finish right before we get to the last 2 loops in this chain area. So let's do that now. Okay, so we've just made it almost to the end here, where we can see we have 2 loops left, and this is exactly what we want. We want those 2 loops left. Alright, so I'm just going to finish off my previous star stitch or half star stitch with a chain, and I'm going to complete the last and final half star stitch right now. So I'm going into my donut hole just like so. I'm going into my 6th insect leg space right there, into the corner space right there, pulling up the yarn as I do so, then into this first loop right there, and into my last and 2nd loop right there. There we go. Pull the yarn through all 6 loops that are left on the hook and chain 1 to finish that off. And as you can see, we have just created 1 row of the star stitch. Now this is where you can absolutely relax, because the 2nd row is nice and simple. You will love the 2nd row. Okay, we're going to chain 1 for that 2nd row, and then we're going to turn the yarn just like so. And when I say yarn, I meant the bookmark or that first row. And then we're going to locate each of these donut hole spaces, which are laying all the way along my first row. If you have trouble seeing them, just turn your piece over so you can see them a little bit more clearly. All right, we're going to find that first donut hole, and we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches inside that hole. This is my number 2. Now when we do single crochet stitches and do 2 of them, it's actually called an increase. So we're going to actually make an increase in each of these donut hole spaces. So here, let's make our next increase, or in other words, 2 single crochet stitches inside that donut space. Here's the next donut space, so let's make another increase as such. So you can see we're looking good. Here's the next donut space. I'm going to make another increase. And I don't want to be doing these increases or single crochet stitches too fast for you. So if you need me to slow down, have a look. I'm entering into the donut hole. I'm grabbing the yarn. It doesn't matter if you do yarn over, yarn under, up to you. And then I'm going to make a single crochet stitch just like so. And I'm going to enter the hook back into the donut space to make my 2nd single crochet stitch, just like that. So why don't we continue all the way until we get to our final donut hole, which is right here, and then I'll tell you how to finish this off. Okay, we're up to the final donut hole right here, and I'm just going to make an increase as normal in each of my donut holes, and here we go. Look, we finished that final increase. Okay, at this point we want to make a slip stitch, but we just need to know where to make this slip stitch, and I'm going to show you where to make it. So can you see these legs? They're probably a little bit hard to see, but if you pull it apart, you can see a few of these legs right here. Well, in that very first leg over here, I'm actually going to insert my hook underneath it. So I'm going to bring that up just a little bit so you can see that. So I'm going to insert underneath it and work my way all the way underneath so that I eventually have 2 loops on the hook. Do you need to see that again? Let's do it again. So here's my hook, finish the final increase, and then I have all of this down here, and in that first strand that I can see here, my hook is going right behind it and working its way all the way underneath until I get those 2 loops on the hook, as you can see. So there's the 2 loops, and all I would do is pull the yarn in through those 2 loops, and then I will pull that first loop on the hook through my 2nd one right there, and we call that a slip stitch. So that is the slip stitch, and you can see it made it a little bit more curvy towards the end here. And now all I'll do is just pull the yarn through, and then I'll pull up a little bit and cut the yarn just like so. So there we go. We have now finished the first and second rows of our beautiful bookmark or star stitch bookmark. As you can see here, it is looking fantastic. Now what we need to do is weave in the yarn tail ends. To weave in the yarn tail ends, all I'm going to do is find the right side of my bookmark, and then I'm going to turn it around to the side that I don't want showing. And you can easily tell this because on the right side you can see that star stitch nice and clearly, on the other side you cannot. So this is the side that I want to work with here, and I'm going to just grab a needle like I have right here, and I'm going to weave this needle in and under a few of these little stitches in the back. So you can see it's weaved all the way through a couple of these stitches in the back, and there's no preference for what stitch, you just work your way through a few of them. I usually like to use at least 5 as my cutoff, but go further or more than 5 if you would like to as well, just to make it more tightly secured. At this point you will then weave this yarn through the eye of the needle, and I kind of turn my yarn because the eye of my needle is not very big, so I kind of twist that yarn just to make it a little bit smaller so that it can fit through the eye of the needle. And once it's pulled through just like that, I'm going to pull a little bit through, not all of it, otherwise you can't pull it out. Then grab a pair of pliers or your fingers if it's easy enough to do, and pull the yarn through it just like so. And I'm going to put it all the way. And you can see it kind of scrunches up just like that. I don't want to scrunch it up too much, so you might like put it back a little bit. But when you come to cutting, you want to pull it just a little bit more, get right up to the edge there, cut the yarn, and now put it back. Just manipulate it so that you've got a nice bookmark right there, and it's looking good right at the ends as well. Now I would also do the same for this side. So I'm going to weave in the yarn at the back. So this is the needle. I'm going to weave it through a few of these little stitch spaces at the back of my star stitch bookmark. Then I'm going to twist my yarn because again the eye of my needle is quite small, so I'm going to get it into there, we thread it through, keep saying weave but you know what I meant, thread it through, get it through, there we go, just a little bit, and then I'm going to use my pliers to pull it all the way through until I can start pulling it on my own, and pull it until you've created the correct shape, making sure this is nice and firm up here or square shaped, and then pull it just slightly, cut right at the tip, and re-manipulate or position it so that you've got that star-shaped bookmark. And here it is, here's the bookmark. So now what we want to do is create the tassel, but before we do that, as you can see, my bookmark is a little bit curved like this, right? So we can add the tassel and then we can try and do something called blocking, which I'm not going to do here, but I'll let you know how to do it. All you need to do is, if you've got some type of steamer or like an iron, put it on the steam mode setting and just make sure you're kind of pushing the button and blowing the steam on the surface of this. You would want to pin it down as well, maybe to a block of foam or some cardboard. Pin it so you've got it nice and straight, then steam over it a little bit above, maybe like 2 centimeters above, just like that. Steam all the way across until it's saturated with steam and it's now nice and dense, and just let it dry. And once it's dry, then you can take out the pins and you'll have yourself a lovely straight bookmark. If you don't really care, then it's a bookmark as is, so you'll be fine with that. All right, let us move on to making the tassel now. To make the tassel, I'm just going to use a bit of a box. So this is the only box that I have. It's just the box that I use to keep my pins inside. But if you have something like this, just find something like this, something that you can wrap your yarn around. Okay, now I'm just going to leave a little bit of a tail at the bottom here. I'll be cutting it later, but I just want to make sure I have enough yarn. And all I'm going to do is go around this box maybe a total of 8 to 9 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's probably more than enough. Then I'll cut right at the end here. Okay, and now what I will do is just rest that right here. I'm going to grab the same colored yarn and I will cut off a reasonable amount, maybe like 30 centimeters worth. I probably cut off a little bit more than this that I didn't need to, but here's my long length of yarn that I have here, and I'm going to grab one side of it and push it through all of these loops on that I've just made around the box, and I'm going to grab it until about halfway and pull it right at the top here. So it will go right at the top, just like so. And then all I will do at this point is create or make a double knot. So here's my first knot, number 1, make it nice and tight, and then my second knot right here, pull that nicely so we don't have any twists, and the second knot, make that a little bit tighter, but don't snap the yarn whatever you do. Okay, next we're just going to leave this here. Now I'm going to pull this here. I'm going to take all of this out just like so, and then I'm going to grab my cutter, pull this as best as I can so it's nice and even, and then just cut the ends just like that. Okay, there we go. So I've cut the ends right there, and then I can also cut these 2 ends just so that all evens itself up right there. Okay, so one of these ends can come down because I won't need it anymore. The other one can stay up just like here, and that's what I use to tie all of these rounds together, or these strands together, I should say. And then I'm going to grab some more yarn. So here's some more yarn, and I'm just going to cut again, maybe about 30 centimeters worth of that. And at this point, here's my cut piece of 30 centimeter yarn right here. I'm going to move this box away because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to grab my tassel. I'm going to pull it down just a little bit so it's nice and tight. That way I can make it nice and even. I'm going to grab one strand and make it the length of the rest of the strands, but keep it slightly away so that you can remember where that strand is, because you're going to have to use it to make a knot in just a moment. And then, as you can see, I've wrapped it around, maybe like 1.5 centimeters down here, and just wrap it a few times. I've wrapped it twice so far. Here's my 4th time, and wrap it nice and tight. 5th time, 6th time. Let's do 7. How about that? There we go. 7 times I've wrapped it. I'm going to grab that strand that I had before, and now all I will do is make you guessed it, a double knot, and this is to secure it in place right here. So here is the first knot coming right up. There we go, that's the first knot. Make it nice and tight as well, and then we're going to make that second knot. Second knot coming up, and here we go, second knot is just there, as you can see. Now I'm going to cut the long strand to the length of the rest of my my yarn tails. So let's see, I'm going to cut this here. There we go. And now with this one, all I would do is use the same needle that I was using before, and I'm going to weave it in. So I'm going to come around here from the top end, come out to the bottom end. You might need a little bit more of a push to get that in, because it's quite a strong wraparound that I've done over there. And then twist the yarn just like so, insert or thread this through the eye of the needle until you've got it through the eye of the needle, which I have just done there. And then I'm going to use my pliers to pull it all the way out. There we go. Then I'll just pull it just a little bit more to make it nice and tight and secured, and I can chop or cut right at the top of that. Right at the top of that. There we go. You can't even see it. All right. So as you can see, this is looking very good. We have our yarn tassel that is looking wonderful. Now the only thing that I will need to do is cut an even amount of tassel so that I've got a good amount of tassel, but you want the ends to look lovely as well. If you had like a small piece of cardboard, you could try and weave it through so you can make it these ends nice and even. If you don't, you're just going to have to pull it to the length that you desire and use your scissors as best as you can to make a neat little end there. Now my scissors aren't the greatest, but you probably have better scissors than I do. I'm just going to cut it. Pretend you're at the hairdressers and you're cutting hair. I've never cut hair before, but hey, I always see them use their 2 fingers to kind of even it all out. There we go. I could probably neaten this out a little bit more, but I'll let you guys do that for your own tassels as well. Then at this point, what I will do is I've got my yarn tassel. All I'm going to do now is, where did I put that needle? Grab the needle, put this long yarn piece through the eye of the needle, and we're going to attach it to the bookmark in just a moment. So get it through the eye of the needle. Oh, haven't done it. Let's try that again. So we've grabbed the yarn and we're going to put it through the eye of the needle. This is probably one of the worst things for me, to put the thread through the eye of the needle, especially if the eye of the needle is not very big. In any case, we have done and accomplished that. And now I'm going to have my bookmark the right side up. I'm going to find the curved end. So this is my straight end, this is my curved end, and I'm going to enter my needle through the top middle portion of that. And then I've got it through 2 of these loops right here. I could put it through the back loop if I wanted, but I just wanted a little bit more supported. So I'm going to put it through both loops, front and back right there. And then I will make, find the desired length that you want. Maybe just about there. That is a good amount. And make again a double knot. So we're going to make a double knot. There's number 1, and here is coming up. Be careful I don't poke myself with the needle. Number 2. There we go. So here's the tassel attached to my bookmark. And what do I do with this side? I will just weave it into the back right here. So again, weaving my needle through the back stitches of this wonderful star stitch space. And actually I'm in the front there, aren't I? So let's go to the back right here. Here's the back, and just again weaving my yarn thread through this, pulling it out with pliers, pulling it through, just stretching it back, repositioning as appropriate, then cut right at the top or tip there, pull it, stretch it a little bit more, and there we go. There is our wonderful yarn tassel bookmark, and that's how we do it. So far we've made a green, a blue one was slightly taller, green one was slightly taller as well than the yellow one, but you can have various lengths that you desire. Just remember the chaining process that we had at the very beginning. And that's it. That's how you make your very own star stitch bookmark. You can make these for your friends at school, for yourself, or yeah, anything. But I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.